4D Dropping Spider Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish.
Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to be showing you my absolute favorite design from this year, at least for Halloween, as far as Halloween is concerned, which, let's face it, Halloween is the best time of year, so this is probably my favorite design this year total. It's amazing. I love it. It's very whimsical, it's very fun, exaggerated, funny. It's just, I am so in love with it, I can't even explain it. So this one is a very, very long stiletto nail that has a spider on it that moves, so I call it like a dropping spider. And then it has, I call it a frill, but it's the part of the spider web extends up off the nail, and then there's all kinds of tulle behind it, so it's very girly, very frilly. Just, I don't know. I love the way it turned out, and I hope you guys like it as much as I do, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.
So to begin with, you're going to need to create that little cavity for the wire of your spider to sit inside the nail. So cut a length of straw that's just shorter than the length of the nail, and then trim a little section out of the straw going up the center of it. So just make 2 cuts to cut out an area, and then glue that to your nail with the cut side up. So you've got this little nice area that acrylic can't get into for your wire to be. So just take your nail glue. Hopefully your nail glue is a little bit more full than mine is. I had trouble getting anything out of it. It's needing to be replaced apparently, which is always kind of a sore subject for me in nail glue. It's terrible stuff. So just glue that down, hold it. If your nail does have some curvature to it, that's okay. The straw will conform to that to an extent. So that's, just hold it in place until it is completely dry. Then taking clear acrylic, I'm going to be covering this entire nail with clear acrylic to make it sure that it is nice and strong. Smooth out the straw, so kind of build the acrylic up to the height of the straw. Do not fill in that area of the straw that you have that is open. You don't obviously want to cover that up because we left that and we cut that open with a purpose. So just do the one side of your nail, and as you're doing this, I'm using a size 10 brush, which is not huge. I know a lot of people like to use even like a 16 or 18. I've seen texts that use a 24, so using a size 10 does seem pretty small, especially for such a long nail, but you really want to make sure not to get acrylic inside that straw. So I would just be hesitant to use something that's much larger than that, just to be careful, because if you do fill in your straw, you're pretty much dead in the water at that point. So I'm going to be filing the nail into shape with my e-file, and I am not using a super strong or super heavy duty bit or a super coarse bit for this. I'm just using my finer one. It worked out really well. I didn't really need to do that much filing, and I didn't want to file into the straw at all, so I wanted to be a bit more careful. And then I'm going to be applying a layer of black gel polish over the entire thing. As you can see at this point, you can no longer see the straw in there because the straw that I used was like a little cocktail straw that was black, and once the nail's painted black, it basically disappears. Then I'm going to be applying a layer of gel sealer and curing that again. After that's all cured and all dry and all good to go, I'm going to be buffing the nail just with a buffer block to remove the shine and make it a little bit easier to paint on. Then on a nail form backing, I'm going to set the nail next to where I'm planning on working, and I'm going to be sculpting out that little, I'm going to call it a frill from here now, that little frill that comes up off the nail that has the end of the spider web. So just make a really big area of acrylic, and I know I was having trouble with my acrylic setting faster than I intended to, so I was working really quickly. Don't worry about the shape of that top of it. It can be whatever shape it ends up being. Worry more about getting the size of it correct and getting that nice V shape coming off correct. So then after that's set enough that you can pick it up without it completely changing shape, pick it up off the nail form backing and then attach it to the nail right above where the end of the straw is, and then hold that up at that nice curvature while it sets completely so it sets the rest of the way. Then secure underneath that with some more clear acrylic just to fill in that gap and make sure that it's not going to fall off the nail. And then I'm going to take my e-file and I'm going to smooth out the edge between that little frill and the nail. So just take and file away some of that acrylic so it's not quite such a big lump there. You don't want it to have that. You want it to just look like the whole thing continues from the nail right up onto that. So I'm going to take a pretty coarse bit that's nice and barrel shaped, nice and round and smooth, and not going to give me those nice round shapes, and I'm going to carve away that little spider web shape. So I'm just going to start, I'm just going to kind of carve into it, and I'm using a pretty high speed here. Like I said, I have a coarse bit and a high speed, so this goes pretty quickly. If you're doing this if your frill ends up being pretty paper thin. You may want to add more acrylic to it before you start this process so it doesn't crack or break. Mine was pretty thick, so I didn't have to worry about that at all, but if yours isn't as thick as mine is, you may want to. I'm just going to take and remove any dust that happened to be on the nail and inside that little cavity for where the wire will be eventually, and then I'm going to fill in and kind of further smooth out that connection between my frill and the nail with some more clear acrylic just to smooth that out. Now I'm going to take some black paint and I'm going to paint the lines of the spider web that are on that frill. So I did 2 layers on the frill. I did first the layer of black lines, and then I went back through later on and I added a layer of white lines. The black lines are your outline. They aren't necessarily meant to be that perfect thin little spiderwebby line. They're more just to kind of create a shadow behind your spider web, which is going to make that web kind of pop off the nail and look a little bit more 3D. And obviously, since the nail itself is black, you don't have to worry about doing these lines across the entire thing because nobody's ever going to see your spiderweb black lines on the black nail, so just do that as far as it will be visible. So at some point down the frill, when it starts to get more towards the nail, you're not going to see it anyway there, so you can stop it. So start with those lines that go from those little tips that you made on the very top of it down, kind of angling down towards where that straw is in the nail, and then add the little swooping lines between those. So now switching to white paint, I'm going to start adding the little spiderwebby lines that are covering the rest of the nail. And I know that I have my spider already in the nail, and I was looking at it and I was like, you know what, this really is not necessary. So eventually I took him out, and I will show you how to make him in just a second. If you're like, wait a second, I missed that part. It's not, I haven't shown it yet. I like to, when I don't necessarily have my videos in the same order of things that I did. I play the videos more in order for it to be easier to understand. Sometimes I'm sporadic with what I'm working on, and I'll do a little bit on this and a little bit on that, and it wouldn't necessarily be as easy to follow. So I switch things out. So I will show you how to make the spider in just a second. So, and he does come out easy enough. That's one thing about this nail that I also like, is I made it so that the spider himself was completely removable. So if you, I don't know who would wear this, but if you were to wear this nail, you could take the spider out if you didn't want him in there all of the time. So as you can see, I'm going to go through and add that wonderful spiderweb pattern across the rest of the nail. If you guys want to know more information on doing spiderwebs, I do have a video that breaks down a spiderweb completely, fully, and I will try to remember to add that to the description box below. If I forget, just remind me and I'll add it later. Sometimes I say that I'm going to add something to the description box and then I'm like, oh yeah, I don't remember I said that, and I don't do it. So just give me a little heads up if I do forget. And so then after I've got that black paint that's on the frill dried, I'm going to go through and add those little skinny white lines throughout that and fill in so it connects and it looks like a continuous spider web that goes across the nail and then up that back piece. Now I'm going to be applying a layer of gel sealer across the entire nail and the front side of the frill. As you're doing this, make sure that you aren't covering up or filling in any bit of that straw, the gap in the straw that you created. Leave that as open as you possibly can. And so just continue to apply your gel sealer, cure that. After you've cured that, go ahead and apply gel sealer to the back of the frill. If you apply gel sealer to both sides, it's going to have a lot better clarity than if you just apply it to one side. So applying it to the back really is important, even if you don't see the back of it at all. After that's cured, I'm going to take and I'm going to grab a piece of green tulle and a piece of black tulle, and I'm going to be folding them and getting them to be the right size for my little pieces of tulle frill behind the frill. My little, I don't know, spiderweb skirt, I guess. So I'm going to take and I just folded it up kind of accordion style, and I'm going to just take and glue that behind the frill. So I have it all folded up there, and then I'm going to take some nail glue and I'm going to apply pretty heavy-handedly behind that frill, just kind of squirt some in there, and I'm going to grab my green tulle again. So I was just having it be held in place with the end of a scissors, but just take, and then I'm going to use my little, this is actually a gel tool for poly gel. I'm just going to take and kind of use that to hold that tool behind that piece of acrylic. Just kind of push that in there. The good thing with using a tool like that is it's nice and flat, so it can kind of wedge the tool underneath. After it's dry, you can take and trim your green tool so it looks a little less raggedy and a little smoother and a little bit more of a nice little circle. And I'm going to take and cut my black tool into 3 strips, and I'm going to kind of twist those up, and I'm going to glue that little twist. I'm going to glue the first one underneath on the one side, so just take and glue and hold it there. So the black tool is more like in 3 separate little bursts, and the green tool is in a nice little fan. So different styles. I kind of wanted to keep it a little different, a little interesting. The other thing that's different between the black and the green tool is, as you saw, I trimmed my green tool so it was a nice perfect little half circle, and then my black tool is kind of in these 3 little pointy bursts, which is, I don't know, I like the different styles behind it. The third one was my most tricky to get in there just because there wasn't nearly as much room. It kind of was easy to glue these last 2 kind of into the sides, but that last third one, there was already so much tulle glued right there in the center with the green that it was a little trickier to get it wedged back in there, but it's really not that bad. And once they're glued down and the glue has dried, they're not going anywhere. So that's a nice little thing to keep in mind. So now I'll show you how to make that cute little spider. So I'm going to take on a nail form backing once again and some nice purple acrylic. I'm going to first sculpt a circle for his body. Just like that, very, very simple. He's 2 circles, which is, it can't really get much easier than that. So there's the first one, and here's the second one. And I'm just going to take and let those set. Before that, so the second bead that I had, that smaller one, is going to be for his head. Before that completely sets, I'm going to grab 2 green rhinestones, and I'm going to place those down for his eyes, and then just kind of press that acrylic up and around them. The green rhinestones I used have a pointy bottom, so they sit really well when they're set right into that wet acrylic, and they will not go anywhere, they won't budge. So if you have some of those that have that nice pointy bottom, for one thing, they're so much more vibrant and sparkly and gorgeous as far as that goes, but then they also do really sit well when they're pressed into acrylic. I added a second layer to the back of his body. That way he has a bit more of a bit thicker on his body. It makes it look, a little bit more 3D. So just add that. And then after he is all done, I'm going to take and I'm going to cut my piece of wire that he will live on. So cut off a length of wire that's longer than the straw is by just a touch, and then bend the one end of it into a U shape. So my first U shape, as you can see, I put that in there and I tested it out. It's like, that's a little bit too, he's going to stick up way too far. So I took that back out and I kind of squashed my U a little bit. So rebent it, kind of used, if you have a better wire tool than a fingernail clippers like I'm using, I would highly recommend using that instead. This was I don't know, this was me being lazy and not wanting to get up and get something to use that would be easier. And this is an old fingernail clippers that I use for things like this. So I was like, well, you know what, that's fine. And so after you have it, so you've got your little, that top of the U shape is going to be the platform for your spider to rest on. I'm going to glue a bead to the other end of the wire so that it won't go too far into the nail and you have something that you can grab really easy. Just glue a bead onto there. Then I'm going to be cutting my spider's legs with some lavender or some light purple thread. So you need 8 little pieces of thread just like that. And I'm cutting them 2 at a time. So I only had to cut 4 times. So after my 8 pieces of legs, I'm going to glue 4 on each side of his body. So take some nail glue, lay that down, pick up a leg. I would recommend using a tweezers or something. These little pieces of thread are really hard for fingers to grab, at least if you're me. I always seem to end up dropping the things, so tweezers will definitely help. So pick those up, set those into the glue, and then go and you're going to want to glue the other 4 onto the other side. Just add your glue down. If your glue dries before you get all your legs in place, you can always add some more, but as long as they're attached well enough for just a moment, you don't really have to worry about it because we will be securing them further with some clear acrylic. This is just a temporary hold. So glue those down as best as you can. And then, as I said, we're going to be grabbing some clear acrylic and applying a nice layer over the top of the entire back of the nail or back of your spider, not nail. So that's going to give you some extra strength, and that's also going to be what you are securing your legs with and what you're attaching your spider to your piece of wire with. So there's that layer of clear acrylic. Like I said, it's going to add strength, so apply it all the way up to his head, even though that's not holding legs or the wire, but it's just going to make it stronger. And then grab your little piece of wire and stick that shorter end of your U shape right into the clear acrylic as it is setting and hold that in place. So then after that's secured well enough that you can let go, you can set it to the side to further set, and that should be good to go. And after that is done, then you're going to want to flip that over and you're going to apply a really sparkly purple gel polish to the front of it. This is a very glamorous nail, and any glamorous nail obviously has to have some glitter, so apply that glitter, cure it, apply some gel sealer over the rest of the spider, cure that again, and you can pop that piece of wired spider right into that nail and you are all set to go. Like I said, this is probably my favorite design of this year. I am so in love with it. The spider is just adorable. That little back piece, I did this, I'm like, you know what, I need a full 10 of these. I need to wear these. I would be willing to wear these because they're just awesome. So I hope you guys liked it as much as I do. Please share your creations with me on Facebook or Instagram. I'd love to see them, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.